What's up, guys? $400 back again. Today we're working on a 450 Foreman. This is about a 2001 model, full-time four-wheel drive. You don't have to switch on the handlebars. Got a couple requests for some videos like this. I don't know. I just haven't never put any up there because I just kind of do these about with my eyes closed. So I take them as they're being simple, but I guess other people wouldn't. So what we're going to do on this one today is clean the carburetor on it. I really don't think there's going to be much wrong with it, but the owner has had a few little running issues with this thing. I really, in all honesty, think I know what the problem is. He leaves this bike sitting outside, and I've actually had this problem happen with my bike. This vent tube is stuck down in the into the steering shaft up here, and I might be able to show you right here. If these things sit outside, water will get down in this tube, get down in the steering tube, and actually, I don't know the right word for it, but kind of cause a vacuum in the in the fuel tank, and not let fuel run out just because the water stops up the end of this hole. See right there? That thing's wet. So it's sitting in water. And I've had this happen in my bike one time, riding in some creeks and stuff. Went through some deep water, and my old 450 like this seemed like it never would cut off, but it cut off on me. Took forever to figure out what it was, and come to find out that's what it was. So as I was riding along, it did it again. I took and snatched that out, shook the water off of it, and it cleaned up and ran perfect. So I'm thinking that's what his problem is. To fix that problem, I'm just going to run, instead of his vent line running down into his steering stem, I'm going to run it out to the side and just run a vent tube up to the handlebars, up to the headlight to alleviate that problem. But he still wanted me to pull the carb off of this thing to clean it, so that's what we're going to do. On this 450, I'm not even real sure that you could see all that. I was talking about this vent tube, this sticking in here, and I'll show you the water on it again because I don't think the camera was up good enough. But see, there's about a ½ inch of water on there, and that will cause the fuel not to run out. Sorry I didn't pan the camera up, but you get the gist of it. All right, start off with, we're going to pull the air box off. Just the easiest thing to do to get this thing out of here. These two push pins on the side, top them up. Have a little cup here to hold all the parts, which there aren't very many in one of these. And I'm going to do this video a little different than I normally do because it don't take long to get this off. I'm just going to keep the video running unless I run into some problem. Alright, next thing you want to do is take this clamp off here by the back of the carburetor. This one here, as well as this one here for your snorkel. So we get those loosened up real quick. You don't have to take them completely off. Just need to be loosened. Make sure my camera can see you there. So run those off. Loosen that one up. Loosen this one up. Okay, and I also need to unhook the crankcase vent line, which is over here on the left side of the bike, right here. Just pull that little clamp with your fingers, slide it back, and then pull your hose off right there. And then next we'll need to slide this air box back. It also helps sometimes if you pull up on this snorkel. This has got the factory snorkel in it, and it's kind of clamped around this tube that runs across here. If you can get it to pop loose like that, gives you a little bit more wiggle room, I guess we'll call it. Get that snorkel to slide back. Tell you, I might just take that whole thing off at one time. I'm going to pull this black plastic off right here and pull the snorkel off too, all in one shot. So there's 4 push pins on this plastic piece. Sometimes you can get it to wiggle around there, but this one's being difficult, so we're going to just pull this off real quick. 2 push pins up here at the front. Fuel cap off. This thing slides back. Come off the plastic pieces. that. And that'll give you enough room to slide this snorkel tube up. Make sure you can see that. Pull it around this plastic piece here. Like that. Slide it back off of your carburetor, the one boot, and everything will slide out all in one piece. Just like that. That makes getting to your carburetor a whole lot easier. One more clamp on the carburetor you got to remove. It's up here at the very front. It ties to the motor. It's a Phillips screw. You can access it off the right side of the bike. Loosen it up. Just like that. What I like to do is kind of just push down on the whole body of this carburetor, and it'll pull it out of that front boot. Wiggle it around and it'll come out. This one has there's a vent line here we're going to have to pull off. This is all factory stuff here. Yours might not be quite like this, but should have a vent line somewhere there. The next thing we're going to pull off, get you down here where you can see it, is the choke right here. I think that's a 12 millimeter. I usually use an adjustable wrench to get it off. I'm going to pull that choke off. This one actually has a clamp on the fuel line here. Most of them don't. You can just pull that fuel line off. Then we also got to pull the throttle cable off. Remove this Phillips head screw, and this cover will come off, and then I can show you what's inside of that. But let me grab something to pull that the choke off. Adjustable wrench. Usually you can about break these loose and then spin them off with your hand. And it'll slide right out of there. Just like that. I'm going to have to use a screwdriver on this clamp for the fuel line. And it slides off. Now, like I said, the only thing we got left is this throttle cable. Remove that Phillips head screw on it. That was tight. Alright, let me see if I can zoom in on this thing a little bit, show you what this looks like. We got a... Alright. So you remove this cover and that screw you just pulled off, and then your throttle cable's in here. Open the throttle plate up inside the motor with your finger and slide that barrel off of that little half moon piece there to get your cable off. And then just take your adjustable, hit the screw part at the top. I think that's a 10 millimeter. I just use an adjustable because it's easy to. I know I need a 12 and a 10, but I can do that all with one wrench with an adjustable. So back that out. And then the only other item that you need to unhook to completely remove the carburetor is the carb heater, which is on the side over here. The hose that a wire that runs off the bottom of it. Zoom out a little bit. Wire runs off the bottom. Excuse that pine straw. And it runs over here to the side. This is actually it right here. A little 2-prong plug. Pick the top of it up right there, that little clip, and it'll come out. Alright, so we got it out. Let me clean off my workbench over here, and I'll show you tearing the thing apart. Alright guys, here we're on the workbench. Got this clean surface here to work off, halfway clean. I'm going to go ahead and pull this vent line off the side just to get it out of the way. We'll have to deal with that. I may take the air hose and blow this thing off. It's got a lot of dust on it. At least get the outside somewhat clean before I start tearing this other stuff down. Hang on just a sec. Let me get that blown off. Alright guys, I'm going to start off with pulling these screws out of the bottom of this thing. You can use a screwdriver. I really like using this little impact driver with a good bit in the end, where you can get a lot of pressure down on it, and that impact helps to pull these off pretty easy. You just got to make sure you got a good bit and a lot of pressure down on it to pull these off and not strip them out. I don't know if I got a feel for it, if I'm just lucky, but I have pretty good luck with the impact driver getting these little screws out. Alright, so then you just pull the bowl off. The gasket kind of came off. There is a little bit of crud down in there. See if I got my flashlight somewhere over here. Oh, there it is. Yeah, right there in the flashlight drawer. So you can see a little bit of crud that's down in here. This could be enough to cause some running issues. Almost looks a little jelly in there, but we'll get to that. Also, there's some gel looking stuff here on this like a splash guard or something, splash shield. Still can't see that. I'm gonna have to work on some studio lights here in my shop. There you go. We'll clean that up too. Normally, most of the time, the biggest issue with these things is this jet down in here. That's the pilot jet, and it has the smallest hole by far of anything in here, and that's normally the one that will clog up on you. I'm gonna pull it out. I've had things so small as a little piece of pine needle get stuck in there, and it wouldn't let it run right. I'm also going to remove the main jet here, which is the one that kind of sticks up a little bit. It's coming out with the whole holder and everything, which is fine. We'll clean all that up. These really don't look bad, other than the crud in the bottom. I've seen these before where they were just completely green, gummed over and all that. You actually can see, God, look at that camera now. You can actually see through the hole there. So that's actually pretty clear. I'm still going to spray some brake cleaner through it. That has a lot bigger hole in it than this one here does. We'll see. See if you might could see through it. Actually, you can. If you, one of my favorite lines, hold your mouth right, you might be able to see through this thing. I wonder if this will work. Let me try something else. There you go. That's with a flashlight on the end of it. It makes the hole look a whole lot bigger, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you, it ain't that big. The way you clean these out, if you do happen to have one that's clogged up, I'm just going to use this piece of wire here as an example. Just take you a piece of wire, strip your insulation off, and pull you one strand of wire out. Just one single strand. That one's nowhere near long enough, but you get the idea. Stick that in there, and it will clog that little teeny hole out. What I'm going to do with these, since you can see through them, I'm just going to take and spray some brake cleaner through them. And I will also take once I get everything cleaned out, both the jets and the holes, spray brake cleaner down in those holes as well. I'm going to take and blow air through them too. I found out that that'll blow some stuff out if you do happen to have something lodged in there. Next thing you want to do is pull out this pin, hold your float in, pick your float up, make sure your float don't have any gas in it. This one looks good. It's mighty brown, but looks good. Then the they call that a needle there. This is what actually controls the fuel going into the carburetor. If you have one leaking out the bottom, a lot of times that's your issue, or either this brass thing here they call a seat. Could be your issue. The thing that sucks about these Honda carburetors is you can't really change those seats out. I've bought some before and got them to come out of there, but it's not a real easy process. I probably don't have the correct tools to do it with, but I just about replace the carburetor if that's the case. You can also I've done this before, take some valve grinding compound and a Q-tip and clean that seat up. The needle is normally good here, the little rubber, as long as the rubber tip doesn't have any grooves or scratches in it. It's usually the seat, there's your issue. Clean that up with some valve grinding compound just to knock the glaze off of it or knock any imperfections off, and a lot of times that'll stop your leaking issue from leaking out the bottom of your bowl. One more item we're going to take apart on this bottom. Actually, two more. There's another jet in the side here. I'm not 100% sure what that jet does, but it doesn't. I've never had one that this jet actually affected your running. I'm still going to pull it out and we'll clean it. And the last thing we want to take out is this mixture screw, which is right here. The key with this mixture screw is what you want to do is screw this thing in to see how far it actually is screwed out. Sounds weird, but just go with me on it. I'll show you in a second. So start here, screw it down till it's lightly seated. So that's 1 turn, 2 turns. Looks like about 2.5 turns is what it is, and that's normally what most of these carburetors are set to. Then you back this thing out. Take it all the way out. I've taken carburetors apart before and cleaned them completely down and never pull this mixture screw out. Put them back together and they still run like crap. Have to take them back apart, clean the mixture screw. It's got some black kind of gunky stuff on it. My camera will not focus. I'm in the market for a new camera, guys. Actually, I'm not in the market. I done bought one. So as soon as it gets here, y'all might see some new videos. Some 5K stuff. So y'all go buy you a new TV and you can watch my videos in 5K. I don't know if that's going to be good or bad. But you can see a little bit of crud that come off the end of that needle. It don't take much to make one of these things not run quite right. Alright, now kind of a tricky part. Inside of this hole, be careful when you take that that mixture screw out. There's a spring in here. And I have a improvised pick here with a little burr on the end of it that will catch that spring. There's a spring. There's a very, very, very small washer. And then another very, very, very small. Here's the washer just fell out. Very, very, very small O-ring. I pull all of those out for once, for one thing, just to keep from losing them, but also make sure there's nothing wrong with them. I'm gonna have to really do some fishing around in here to get this O-ring out. But sometimes it takes some time, and I kind of need some light on the situation because I can't half see, and I definitely can't see in the dark. So let's see. There it is. So, well, you ain't gonna be able to see a black O-ring on my black glove, but see the little O-ring there? It looks good. It's not broken or anything like that. But like I say, the main thing on that is just to get it out so I don't lose it when I get to blowing air through it and brake cleaner and all that mess. Here's some more of that crud that just come off of the this splash shield thing. Alright, so got all that taken off. Next thing I'm going to do is pull this the bellow out of here. Same deal. Phillips screws with my little impact driver on them. A lot of pressure pushing down to keep them from stripping out. And most of the time, if you get a carburetor, which don't happen to me very often, but you get a carburetor that's never been taken apart, the screws are not very tight on them. You can break them loose with your hand. This one here undoubtedly has been taken apart before. So you pull your diaphragm out here, make sure it's not cracked or broke anywhere. These things very seldom give trouble. This is also another needle in the carburetor. You'll want to clean that off. That one looks fairly clean, but we'll clean it off. And that opens up the throat of your carburetor. I usually just take brake cleaner, spray around in all that, blow air through all the holes. Also on your choke side here, brake cleaner through that, blow air through the holes, through the actual body of the carburetor. I do brake cleaner through there and air, and then this side you can actually see some crud in there. Looks pretty rough. Brake cleaner will clean all that up too. So let me get all this stuff cleaned up. I think I pretty much went through how I do it. Just shoot you some brake cleaner in there, and I have a soak. It's actually made by Yamaha, which works great. Water-based thing. Warm it up, and you can dip the carburetor in it. I don't think this one's that bad. Sometimes the real bad ones, the ones that are like I talked about, were gummed up green. That's the ones I'll soak. And like I told you before, I don't think this has got an issue with the carburetor, although there is some crud in there. I think it's more or less that vent line that's been the issue. So let me get all this stuff cleaned up, and I will show you a video real quick, me sticking it back together. All right, guys, I got everything cleaned up here. Go ahead and stick it back together. Pretty self-explanatory on the assembly. Stick this little side jet in here. I blew everything out with the air hose to make sure we didn't have anything, small particles of something hung up in there to make it not run correctly. So should have everything cleaned out. This little jet here is not the easiest one to get back in there. Here you go. Spin it in. Just want to tighten these things down, but you know you ain't got to torque down on them. They are made out of brass, so they will break on you. The auto jet will be next. That's the one with the real super small hole in it. I really can't even see through it. There it goes, right there. It'll actually get a bubble of air in there sometimes, and you can't see through the jet, so you have to blow through it. So tighten it down same way. Just snug it down. Main jet's next. In that middle hole there, it sticks up higher than any of the other ones. Tighten it down as well. Now we're going to stick in our mixture screw. The easiest way to do it is take the mixture screw, go ahead and assemble it before you stick it in. You stick your spring on here first. You stick your metal washer on there next. Over the pin. And then you stick your rubber washer on. Make sure it's pushed all the way down. And the easiest way to get this thing in here is to turn your carburetor up like this so all that stuff don't fall off. And thread it up in there. You actually thread it a little bit with your hand before you get your screwdriver on it. Thread it all the way in, and then we're going to back it back off that 2.5 turns, just like it was when we took it apart. So screw it all the way down in there till I believe the manual says seats lightly. So until it pretty much stops and you don't have to torque down on it. Only issue I'm having here is my dang screwdriver is a little bit too big. There we go, it seats up, so we'll go 1 turn, 2 turns, and a half, right there. All right, next we're going to stick on the float with the needle on it. Got it cleaned up. It just slide the needle in there. Hopefully it don't fall off like mine just did. Slide the needle in there. This one didn't have any problems with it leaking, so I didn't go and do the whole valve grinding compound in the seat to clean that up. We're just going to clean it out and make sure there's no solid stuff in there. Put your pin back in there. Make sure it bounces up and down fine. Last thing to put in is this. This is some kind of splash guard. I've taken carburetors apart before, and they didn't have this. I'm not real sure exactly what it does. It has a little groove there that it needs to fit in. It'll only go one way so that your overflow tube lines up with one of those notches. Also, a little rundown of how this thing works is so that float and that needle let gas in this bowl, and if the bowl gets full, then the fuel goes out this hole here and runs out the bottom, as I know most people have seen that happen before. Also, there is a screw on the side right here. If you break that screw loose, it actually drains the bowl, so it pulls out from the very bottom of the bowl to drain gas out too. So if you ever got contaminants in your gas tank or in your fuel system, open that screw and it'll drain the bowl out. This one here just drains excess to keep it from flooding your engine. So there's a little carburetor 101. So slide this thing back on here. I'm not doing anything with the primer there. It wasn't leaking. Those things do leak from time to time, and there's some fairly inexpensive ones that you can buy online and replace that if you do have one that's leaking. That's mainly just for help starting the bike sometimes. You can press that in and it'll shoot gas directly into the carburetor. If everything's tuned up right, you really shouldn't ever have to use that thing. And naturally I'm missing one screw here. So we're going to have to find that in my screw bin. I don't know how I lose a screw when I'm working on top of a white workbench, but you know, that's how you lose it. You lose it, put the cap over top of it. So tighten all these down. Like I said, I don't think these things have to be very, very, very tight. The when you take one off this been factory installed or never opened before, they're not super tight. So I just run these down with the Phillips screwdriver just to snug them up like that. Flip it over to the other side. Biggest thing here is to make sure during all your cleaning, there's a brass. See if you can see this on the camera. There's a brass part right here in the very center that your needle off your diaphragm goes into. This thing right here, right there. Make sure that's in there. I've cleaned carburetors before and just not paying attention, lost that piece or it fell out or whatever, and it will make it run all kind of crazy. So make sure that thing's in there. Slide your diaphragm back in, making sure your needle lines up. That one lined up just perfect. It slid right in there. Put your spring in and then put your cover back on. Make sure your cover, it's got a little notch in it. Make sure that notch covers or lines up with this hole that's actually in the diaphragm up on the one side there. Just kind of sit that down on there. Make sure it's flush. You should be able to press it down with your finger and it be completely flush all the way around. If that thing's not flush, it'll leak. And that diaphragm will not move up and down as it should when the bike's running or when you're giving it gas, and it'll make it run kind of funny too. So, all right, let me get these tightened down, and I'm not real sure if I'm going to show the whole putting it back on the bike because I think it's fairly self-explanatory. I've already bored you enough watching me take it apart and take it off and take it apart. So I'm gonna stick this thing back together, and I'll probably I'll cut the camera back on just to show you that it truly will run. But biggest thing is make sure you put your vent line back on. Make sure you run your carburetor, your choke back in, throttle cable back on, hook your heater up, and that's about it. So I didn't do anything with this accelerator pump. Most of the time I don't have any issues with those, and really I don't really know how much what it actually does, but they don't normally get gummed up, and I usually don't even mess with those. So I'm gonna stick this back on. I'll cut the camera back on when I crank it up. Well guys, the owner showed up too quick for me to make another video on the thing. He was ready to get out of here, so I didn't get to make a running video, so y'all just gonna have to take my word for it. It left here on the trailer, so it was running good. But that's how you clean a 450 Foreman carburetor. I got a few more other ones I'm gonna try to do, just 350, 500s. So I'll put a video up of those as well, just to help some folks out there, because I know I've been getting a bunch of requests for them. So. Alright, appreciate you guys watching. Hit the like button and subscribe. Have a good day.